Hello and welcome to MindShifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour, and today is Thursday, April 15th, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or in the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in learning and using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered to manage my emotions, improve my relationships, and turn any negative emotion into part of the infallible guidance system that we've all been gifted. These tools are gratefully available absolutely free at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the red and white bullseye or the link in the upper left-hand corner of most pages, it'll take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Rice's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of that book contains a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. That's the Reality Management Worksheet, or Wake-Up Sheet. And if you, also on that page, you can click and download the PDF file of that worksheet process, absolutely free. You can also go to your App Store or the Google Play Store and type in the three words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. And before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon, and you can download a completely free and private app that gives you access to that worksheet, an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. And if you do that, as we hope you do soon and often, it might raise questions for you. It might give you some things to call us and talk about your tremendous testimonials of benefit from applying that tool in your life. And if you want to do that, our call-in number is 563-999-3581. And when you call that number, if you got something to say, press 1. It'll put a little question mark by your phone number, and I'll announce you by your area code. And as we mentioned, today is the 105th day of the year, and we're doing the Course in Miracles workbook lessons, and so that's lesson 105. Today's lesson reads, God's peace and joy are mine. The commentary says, the Creator's peace and joy are yours. Today we will accept them knowing they belong to us, and we will try to understand these gifts increase as we receive them. They are not like to the gifts the world can give, in which the giver loses as he gives the gift. The taker is the richer by his loss. These are not those kinds of gifts, but bargains made with guilt. The truly given gift entails no loss. It is impossible that one can gain because another one loses. This implies a limit and an insufficiency, what many call the zero-sum game. No gift is given thus. Such things that we call gifts are but a bid for a more valuable return, a loan with interest to be paid in full, a temporary lending meant to be a pledge of debt to be repaid with more than was received by him who took the gift. This strange distortion of what giving means pervades all levels of the world that you see. It strips all meaning from the gifts you give and leaves you nothing in the ones you take. A major learning goal this course has set to reverse is to reverse your view of giving so you can receive. For giving has become a source of fear, and so you would avoid the only means by which you can receive. Accept the Creator's peace and joy, and you will learn a different way of looking at a gift. The Creator's gifts will never lessen when they are given away. They but increase by being given away. As heaven's peace and joy intensify when you accept them as the Creator's gift to you, so does the joy of your Creator grow when you accept the joy and peace as yours. True giving is creation. It extends the limitless to the unlimited, eternity to timelessness, and love unto itself. It adds to all that is complete already, not a simple terms of adding more, for that implies it has been less. It adds by letting what cannot contain itself fulfill its aim of giving everything it has away, thereby securing it forever for itself. Today, accept the Creator's peace as yours. Let him complete himself as he defines completion. You will understand that what completes the Creator must also complete his creation. The Creator cannot give through loss. No more can you. Receive the Creator's gift of joy and peace today, and creation will thank you for giving that gift back to it. Today our practice periods will start a little differently. Begin today by thinking of those brothers and sisters who have been denied by you the peace and joy that are their right under the equal laws of the Creator. Here you denied them to yourself. So whenever you deny the gifts of joy and peace to anyone else in your thoughts, you have denied them to yourself. And so here you must return them in order to claim them for yourself. So think of your, quote, enemies, close quotes, a little while, and then tell each one, as he or she occurs to you, my brother or sister, peace and joy I offer you, that I may have creation's peace and joy as mine. Thus you prepare yourself to recognize the Creator's gifts to you and let your mind be free of all that would prevent success today. Now you're ready to accept the gift of peace and joy that the Creator has given you. Now you are ready to experience the joy and peace you have denied yourself. And now you can say, God's peace and joy are mine, for you have given what you would receive. You must succeed today if you prepare your mind as we suggest, for you have let all bars to peace and joy be lifted up, and what is yours can come to you at last. So tell yourself, the Creator's peace and joy are mine, and close your eyes a while, and let the Creator's voice assure you that the words you speak are true. Spend your 5 minutes thus with the Creator each time you can today. But do not think that less is worthless when you cannot give him more. At least remember hourly to say the words which we call the Creator to give to you what the Creator wills to give and wills for you to receive. Determine not to interfere today with what the Creator wills. And if a brother seems to tempt you to deny God's gift to him, see it as but another chance to let yourself receive the gifts of the Creator as yours. And then bless your brother or sister thankfully and say, my brother, my sister, peace and joy I offer you, that I may have the Creator's peace and joy as mine. So, that's our lesson from the Course in Miracles workbook, and it's for the 105th day of the year. And in Pam Grout's book, Course in Miracles Experiment, the 105th chapter is titled, Getting to Carnegie Hall. She quotes Thornton Wilder as saying, we can only be said to be alive in those moments when our hearts are conscious of our treasures. Pam writes, some mornings when I'm running to pickleball, no need to be impressed here, it's just a block away, I repeat over and over in my head, thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God. I feel so joyful and so lucky. I've found that the more I focus on my blessings, the more my blessings knock on my door. It's like Halloween night when a parade of adorable ballerinas, princesses, and miniature zombies show up to delight me. And all I have to do is provide a bowl of candy. This lesson, Lesson 105 from the Course in Miracles workbook, the dude's peace and joy are mine, It says everything we give, joy, love, creativity, it all expands. It creates growth. It generates more. People often ask me, how is it possible to be so joyful when the, quote, what you see, close quote, looms so large in your mind? All I can say is it's the same as the answer to the old joke, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. So, that's our Course in Miracles lesson for today and our Pam Grout commentary, and we have 48 minutes left to answer your questions, explore your questions with you, entertain your testimonials, entertain your thoughts about what would be a good topic for today. We have 9 callers and somebody in the chat room. So how would we spend this next 48 minutes in a way that would be useful to you? We have a support group tonight, 6:30 to 9 p.m. Central. All the information about joining that is available at MindShiftersAcademy.org. And you can attend yourself, or you can forward that information to somebody that you think might benefit from joining us. It's absolutely free. You can donate if you want, but ever since the coronavirus restrictions have kicked in, we've done away with the need for, paying for access to the support groups. And it's it's a community effort. We had our support group on Tuesday, and sometimes we don't get that much feedback about was it good, was it not so good. But we had several people on Tuesday night say this was really good. This is what I needed. This helped me in this way or that way. So if you want to tap into that yourself, feel free to join us. And if you know someone who would benefit from exposure to these tools, or the delightful community of people that work to learn more about these tools, please pass the information along to them. MindShiftersAcademy.org. And remember, there's a separate login data page for each, the Tuesday and Thursday group. And let us know, how can we support you today? Even suggest a topic. I just finished a session with somebody who was she was baffled by how she could have missed one of the primary dynamics in her family of origin for as long as she did. And she just kept saying, but how could that happen? How could I have not seen this? And at this point in her life, she's 40-some years old, she's seeing it very, very plainly. And she's just amazed that she didn't see it sooner. And I told her about the time I was in graduate school, near the end of my graduate school career. And I'd done all kinds of therapy work on myself and been a group member and had my own individual therapy analysis going for years and been to advanced group sessions. And I was up one night. I went home for a holiday, and we're up one night in the evening talking with my brother, sister-in-law, and I, and my brother said something about a dynamic in our family that I had never encountered, never even entered my consciousness before. And I might have even spoken those kinds of words or had somebody speak them. It just never made it through the barrier to my conscious awareness. And this is my brother. He's like, a business computer specialist, not a psychologist. And he saw it plain as day. And so we just had a conversation about how this is what our mind does. We think we see the world outside of us, but we don't. We just make guesses about it. Like Anil Seth tells us we hallucinate our realities. Our perception is this very, very active process. And it is not the least bit surprising that we are blinded to the issues and dynamics that drive our lives. That's what it is to be human. That's what it is to have this consciousness or awareness that is limited to what sights and sounds and vibrations the five senses will give us. And we know our eyes only see a fraction of the light that is there. We call it the visible spectrum. Our ears only register a fraction of the vibrations that are there to be picked up as sound by other insects, by other mammals. And so, it shouldn't surprise us that we are, what the phrase that a lot of people use is, we're clueless, because we are not able to hear everything and see everything and perceive everything that's in front of us. And our perception, using these tiny little bits of data points that are hitting our senses, we can only be aware of a tiny bit of it within any given moment. And then it's completely shaped and filtered by our willingness and our readiness and our beliefs about ourselves and others and our past traumas. There's so many different levels of screening going on. It's amazing that we get anything right when you understand how limited our senses are for providing us the data points that we use to create a picture. It's amazing that our picture is accurate enough for us to drive from point A to point B in a city and not run into other people. It's amazing that the automobile accidents that we experience don't happen at 100 times the rate. When you truly take a look at how inaccurate our perception is and how limited our perception is. So we have tools that quite literally help us improve our perception. They help us remove the filters and roadblocks and prejudices that are driving our perception without our awareness. And one of those we've only mentioned in a cursory way for a few months now is the 3 early memories of conflict. And I absolutely have to recommend, if you haven't done that worksheet in a while, that you go to whyagain.org, click on the red and white bullseye, and scroll down until you see the worksheet. It's free. You can download it. 3 early memories of conflict. And it is, a very, very useful tool to help me shine a spotlight on some of those biases, prejudices, filters that get active in me that I'm not aware of. And as Dr. Michael Rice would say, the strongest resonant energy in my system that I'm not aware of, that's going to drive my behavior in any moment. So, a tool like the 3 early memories of conflict helps me understand what are those energies, what are those beliefs, what are those trauma response patterns that I've been subject to, that I've had them drive my life responses, my behaviors in various situations for decades without realizing it. And it's a deceptively simple tool, but with the willingness to apply it and accept what it reveals to me, I can get access to the stuck points, to the primitive coping mechanisms that kick in. I was working with a woman earlier this week, and she was talking about the pattern of going into a panic, actually feeling a panic attack, flushing, whole body sweats and heart racing, when it feels to her like someone is paying attention, deeply emotionally paying attention to her, if she is the focus of attention. And it's amazing. All it takes is for somebody to just be actively listening to her, and she goes into a panic. And if she can't uncover the traumas in her life that are driving that, and if she can't become more consciously aware of it when it's happening, it will just continue to drive her reactions for as long as she's alive. I used to have a very strong, you might call it peacekeeper or mediator pattern, that whenever there was a conflict, I wouldn't always act on it, but I would have a very strong impulse to just want everything to go back to calm, can't everybody just get along? And when I did that 3 Early Memories of Conflict worksheet, I got presented with a series of targets for reality management worksheets, and I did a whole boatload of work of my own with EFT tapping and breath sessions and the neuroemotional technique. And it's made a dramatic difference in how I show up when there's conflict. It's made me able to be in a therapy session with people and be far more productive, rather than feeling driven to just find a peaceful resolution at all costs as soon as possible. So the more I'm willing to do this work or these kinds of tools, the more I'm willing to learn about what are the energetic patterns and beliefs that are literally driving my responses, the more healthy I get, the more flexible I am, the more different situations I can function well in. And that's the point of our work, to get, as individuals, for us to know ourselves better, to uncover some of those unconscious dynamics, and to continue to reveal to ourselves the truth that there is no such thing as bad self-knowledge, as Guy Finley would say it. There's no such thing as a bad fact about yourself that you're going to uncover. It's completely safe to do the MindShifter targeted journaling tool. It's completely safe to do the 3 Early Memories of Conflict tool over and over again, to do it once a month or once every 6 months or at least once a year. And certainly any time when you're feeling stuck or hamstrung or frustrated by the results you're getting in whatever relationship dynamic is active in your life, whether that's with a coworker or a family member or a child or a parent. When I get stuck, it's an inside job. And if I'm holding goals for somebody and they're not the least bit interested in satisfying my goals for them, and I keep holding that goal, that's the thing that keeps me stuck. It's not the other person keeping me stuck. The only thing that keeps me stuck is holding a goal for things to be different than they are and continuing to pour my energy into that situation, which by definition is something that I don't have any control over. That's the thing that keeps me stuck. So our call-in number is 563-999-3581. We have 10 callers, 1 person in the chat room. How should we spend the next 34 minutes? (563-999-3581) and press 1. and let's have a conversation, or suggest a topic, or tell me I'm full of baloney, or tell me what you're going to do this weekend. We could go to the how are you going to spend your weekend? It's old radio show gags for killing time. How many people in the audience, by show of hands, know about the golden mean? Some people raise their hands. How many people, show of hands, know about the middle path? For those of you that don't know about the middle path, but do know about the golden mean, how many of you know that they're the same? And this is how you kill time in a radio show. The thing that comes to mind to talk about is the opposites, and how our mind is programmed to think in terms of comparisons and opposites, but how so many of the great spiritual teachings want us to wake up to the fact that there aren't these opposites. It's just the flow of life. Dale Allen Hoffman talks about how in the ancient Aramaic language, there isn't a separate word for cause and a separate word for effect. That's just something that our Western conscious logical mind has chosen to do, to make an artificial, arbitrary delineation that says there's a difference here. And the ancient wisdom probably even goes beyond the Aramaic, but the ancient wisdom is that there's just the flow of life. And cause and effect are part of the same process of flow, which is, coming right back to the Course in Miracles lesson for today that talks about how this is not a zero-sum game. This is a flow of the creative energy. Everything that you see is part of life. And when you give life, you get life. When you participate in the flow of creation, creation is expanded. It's not about lack. It's not about limitation. It's not about the zero-sum game. And the same thing with how our mind wants to create a belief in opposites. I remember we were having a discussion on the radio show, and I had recently listened to a physicist be interviewed by Krista Tippett. And the physicist had said, one of the problems we have is that we have this mind that wants to create all of these opposites and create this is right and this is wrong. And he says, the world is just more complex than that. He says, one of the hallmarks of any great truth is that its opposite is also true. And, of course, I know that when people hear that, they say, what are you talking about? Well, he's a physicist, and so the example he gave is that in the realm of physics, for years, people would have these chest-beating, chest-thumping arguments about what is light? Is it a wave or a particle? And people would take positions on one side or the other of that debate and say, I have my evidence and it shows, here's proof that light is a wave. And then someone else would come along with some slightly different evidence and say, here's proof that it acts like a particle. And that debate kept going until eventually the double-slit experiment came into being and the technology was there to be able to monitor the energy movement at that very, very tiny level, that subatomic level. And they were astounded to discover that it's both, that light acts as a wave in some situations and a particle in others. So here's one of those deep truths that, light is a wave. Its opposite, light is a particle, is also true. And the more I can soften my craving to be right or to know, the more I open myself to learning about the flow and complexity of life. canceling my need to be right is so important. It's a part of every reality management worksheet. And it's one of the hardest parts of the reality management worksheet, especially for those of us who exist in this Western mind, because we're trained the opposite, just in terms of schooling but some of us are. It's even more intense than that, because some of us have the physical abuse training that says if you get this answer wrong, you're going to get beaten, or you're going to get emotionally ridiculed, or you're going to get abandoned. So there are all kinds of different things that can motivate us to get hooked into that, the false pursuit of trying to always be right. And that's one of the best parts of the reality management worksheet, that it reminds us every time we do one of those worksheets that there's a need. If we have any strong emotional upset, there is a need for us to cancel our need to be right. Is this Ellen?
Yes, it is, Dr. Tim. This is getting to be a daily thing. You
Welcome.
keep inspiring me to call in with what you're talking about.
Well, do tell. How are you so inspired?
Well, I just read a couple things in Byron Katie's book, 1,000 Names for Joy, this morning that are in complete alignment with what you're saying. The one is she was telling a story about what could have been a very stressful event in her life, but that because she didn't believe any of her thoughts about it, it wasn't at all stressful for her. And I just want to quote a couple sentences here. She says, she's talking about, if you're at war with what is. And she says that's not only insane, it's hopeless, and it's very painful. But when you question your mind, thoughts flow in and out and don't cause any stress because you don't believe them. And you instantly realize that their opposites could be just as true. Reality shows you in that peace of mind that there are no problems, only solutions. You know to your very depths that whatever happens is what should be happening. And then in another chapter that I read this morning, I love this sentence. She says, there is nothing that isn't true if you believe it, and nothing that is true, believe it or not. I love that, because she's saying there's really nothing going on, but if you believe it, then wow, it's absolutely going to be true for you. So if you believe in opposites, there's going to be opposition going on all around you. And if you believe that there is no such thing, and then there's no stress. There's no opposition. And it always comes down to, what do you believe? And it's so funny. She talks, too, about how, that without thought, there's no world. And that these friends of hers were trying to convince her that she thinks. And they're saying you can't speak if you don't think, and I just found it so humorous that, how we think of thinking. We think it doesn't. Most people don't even realize that it's constantly creating, form, but yet other people think that in order to do anything, including speaking, you have to think. It all just seems really silly.
Well, and that reminds me of what Dr. Michael Rice says quite often. One of his sticking points is, when I tell somebody that when they say this, it means this or that, what I'm saying is, if I were to say that, that's what it would mean. If I were to use that tone of voice, it would mean I'm angry. Right? If I were to make a statement like that, it would mean that I have this or that. So her friends were trying to convince her of their reality.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't soften and let in the truth that she's had a whole different reality and a whole different level of understanding about what it means to think in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last time we brought that up, I talked about how there's a part in the book, The Impersonal Life by Joseph S. Benner, where he talks about how there's no true thinking in any human being until after there's the realization of the divine mind awake in the human being. Because prior to that, it's all just spinning.
Yeah, and the Course says it's really like your mind is just a blank. There's no real thinking happening. I love that.
Yeah, or it's what that mechanical level of mind that Guy Finley talks about, where it's just spinning and thinking the same kinds of things over and over again, what David Bohm might call sustained incoherence. And what the Course in Miracles and the Impersonal Life would draw us to is that there's another, universes away. There's a whole different realm of actual thought, creativity, intelligence that's in alignment with the flow of the creative force that's possible outside of our conscious, rational, quote, logical processes. We don't even understand how, we were programmed to think what we're thinking. It's not divine thought for the most part. It's not, the one mind expressing through us. It's this constant repetition of what's been programmed into us by the school, by the family, by the traumas of our lives, by our interactions with our friends growing up, labeling some things important and other things unimportant, and judging and criticizing.
Driven by fear.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, it's all driven by fear. And in this morning's lesson, or today's lesson, it said that true giving is creation. And I love that because I never really, even though I've read it before, I guess I didn't really take that in. And, just the whole way that this world operates on giving, how we think about giving and receiving. I mean, and it's just the way it's described in today's lesson, it just seems so foreign to every experience I've ever had in this world of giving. Other than something like love, which I can see, it seems like it does increase as you give it. But this whole idea of lack and, insufficiency comes out of this fear that there isn't, that giving can mean losing. and there is nothing to lose.
There's a point in the Mirror Theory book where it's talking about a woman who was a gifted cook, and she would cook for her family and friends, and they would just love it, and she was just thrilled that they loved her food, and then it got going into this cycle where she was cooking and providing all the meals and doing all the cleanup and she was resenting it more and more, but she got into it because it was so great that was her identity. But then after a while it was a burden, and she didn't feel like it was okay for her to ask for, reciprocal behavior on their part, or to ask people to help pay for the food or bring some food, and one of my favorite lines from the book comes from that section in exchange where it says, no loving gift is ever truly given if the giver isn't respected in the process.
Mm.
So in that flow of energy, if I'm giving, but I'm building resentment, I'm not really, the energy of resentment in me is tainting, is coloring energetically the process, the gift itself, and it's out of balance, it's out of whack.
Right.
If you go to the Give and Take book by, I think, I don't know, maybe the author's Adam Grant, but the book is called Give and Take, and he talks about, doing research on what's this deal, because some people just give and give and give. It seems to be hardwired into them that they just naturally give of themselves. They give money, they give time, they give intelligence and effort. And he had this theory. He's a researcher. He wanted to figure out, okay, so he's theorizing that most of the people who are givers are going to be, overrepresented in the poor people, in the lower quarter of the socioeconomic level. So he went out and did research. He figured out how to assess this and assessed people that were of all these different socioeconomic levels. And sure enough, what he found was that givers, he figured that it's a good thing to do to break people into givers and takers and matchers. So there are people that just take, and there's people that just give, and then there's people that'll only give to you if you give back in just the same measure. They're like the scorekeepers. They're always, well, I did this for you, and you didn't do that, and you're supposed to respond this way and that way. So he's got these three categories, and he does the research, and sure enough, he finds out that givers are overrepresented in the lower quadrant of poverty and socioeconomic status.
I thought you were
shocked him. What shocked him was to find out that givers are also overrepresented in the top quadrant.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then he said, well, now, wait a minute. This has to make sense. How do we make sense of that? And when he did the research and he interviewed the people who were givers in the top, people like Branson, the billionaire, and, what he found was that the people who are in the lower quadrant of socioeconomic and they're givers, they give without regard. They don't pay attention. They don't make sure that they personally and then their family have what they need to begin with. They give to their own detriment, and they give to people who are takers, and they give to people who are matchers. They just give indiscriminately. Whereas the people who are givers, who are in the top, 25% of the finances and socioeconomic status, almost invariably these people are very discriminating. And so they only give to people freely after they've already satisfied the minimums for their family and themselves, and then they give to people who are givers. And they do not give indiscriminately to people who are takers. So they have these, you might call them, rules of engagement, and they pay attention to their energy level. And when they're feeling drained or tired, they find out ways to get themselves reinvigorated and nurtured and supported. So it's a fascinating book, but it ties into the same thing that one segment of the mirror theory talks about, where, I'm not going to give from my hundreds or my thousands or my millions or my billions of dollars unless it's going to be spread around. I'm not going to give it to people from my abundance to people who are going to hoard it.
Mm-hmm.
it's like I don't know whether it was the woman in the mirror theory was named Simone or whatever, but this woman who had the problem with doing all of this cooking and supplying all of this food and then resenting it. Eventually, she was coached into the process of telling the truth to people and telling them they're welcome to come and partake in this wonderful meal, and they can sign up to do the cleanup, or they can bring food of their own that helps, that she'll be happy to prepare. But when it's all up to her to provide all of the labor and all of the money and all of the food and all of the cleanup, it's not a balanced thing, and it's a burden, and then it becomes a resentment. So it's like in everything in life, it's another call for balance.
Right. Yeah, that highlights some of my own issues. I'm one of these people that always resistant to ask people for help, because then I feel like I owe them something. And I don't want to feel that way. So I try and do everything.
That'd be a wonderful thing to do some worksheets on. Yeah. That would be a really good thing to do some worksheets on. Because what that does is it keeps you isolated from true deep relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's pretty much the story of my life. Isolating myself to try and protect myself, because the relationships I had early on were all very dangerous. So, yeah. So that's good. That brought that up, and I know it's an issue, and I guess I just haven't been willing up to this point to. Because for the most part, I have been able to live my life without too much negative repercussion as a result of it. But I do understand that it's.
Well, think about it this way. When you say, I've been able to live my life without too much negative repercussion.
Yeah, that sounds awful, doesn't it?
Well, but think about it. It might be right? You've never really had an atom bomb dropped on your village or whatever, and you've never really had anybody do horrible, overt physical or sexual abuse, etc. But look at what that statement doesn't cover. Mm-hmm. Right? So here's a person who Jeannie Rice likes to tell a story of I think I'm combining a story that Michael tells and Jeannie tells, but there's a story of a woman who was in her prime and beautiful, and she got stood up at the altar. And, like 25 years later, she's a bag lady, and she's got caked makeup in her hair. She doesn't, she does everything possible to make sure she's not attractive, so no one ever falls in love with her again and stands her up at the altar. And so it's true. It works, right? She's able to prevent that horrible thing from happening to her again. Right. But what else is she excluding from her life? What are the wonderful, subtle, nuanced, gentle, connections, relationships, life experiences? So it's one thing to say, I've avoided these horrible things, and that might be true, but it doesn't really let you have a picture of what you might have been restricting from yourself, what you might have cut yourself off from. So that's why I recommend the worksheets on that.
Yeah. It was funny. It really jumped out at me the one time I had just had surgery on one of my hands, and I had a friend over, and I was fixing, drinks or food or something in the kitchen, and he yelled in, "Could you use a hand?" And I immediately, my immediate response is, "No, I got everything." And then I looked at my hand. It's all bandaged up. I couldn't use it. And I said, "Wow, I guess I really could use a hand."
Yeah, those old patterns are pretty intense.
That was so clear to me.
Yeah.
I do.
So sometimes it takes a 2x4 to the forehead to get us to wake up. Yep.
Exactly. Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. So you might want to do some worksheets, or you might want to do a mind shifter on the safety of engaging in intimate relationships, complex, multifaceted, intimate relationships.
Yeah, it all has to do with like having needs that, like I have this need to take care of all of my own needs.
Which, of course, has never happened. It's never happened, right? You've just created that fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
None of us has ever taken care of all of our own needs.
Right.
It's like the people or the corporations that don't want to pay, taxes for the roads, but they couldn't have a business in this town if there weren't roads, and we're all interdependent.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we have a familiar number putting her hand up, so I'm opening up the mic for Susan.
Hi, guys. This is the most amazing discussion. And Ellen and I are both a lot alike. And the issue I want to discuss is really a scary one because it has to do with the radio show. And I haven't been able to figure out or draw a line. I call the radio show to learn stuff. I call because I get so much. This is all for me. But when you launch into what you just did before Ellen called, before you started talking again, you started talking about the golden mean, and I thought, oh, my God, Tim really needs somebody to push one. And he's being funny about it, but it can't be a very comfortable position. Meanwhile, I'm listening to the radio show while raking leaves, and I thought, either I got to, because I have this little assignment now to do at least one bag of yard waste per day to get ahead of the mess that's around. I thought, I should be calling in, but I don't want to call in because I want to just rake and listen. But I'm feeling this pressure to rescue you. And Dr. Tim, you have said it's not up to me to rescue you. And I know how insulting it is when I think that someone needs rescuing or fixing. But this is one of my issues. And I'm always standing around to myself saying, am I calling because I want to call, or am I calling because I feel badly about Dr. Tim who needs somebody to press one? That's one of my weird issues, but it ties right into this giving thing. Any comments?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I think my first comment, the thing that's popped into my head a few times is, please don't ever call if you don't want to call.
I know you have said that, and I believe you. And I think even maybe I call too much anyway, and you don't even like it. And that's a whole other worksheet. I mean, there's so much personal
No. That's
garbage.
A stack of worksheets. That's a whole stack of worksheets. That's not one worksheet.
Right. Yeah.
You know what?
You're right.
Because I feel the pressure too, and what I've been doing is just allowing myself to feel that pressure. But then if, like, all of a sudden Dr. Tim starts talking about something that, like, really resonates or, like, just is totally synchronous with something that I was reading this morning, or with the lesson today, or something that I was like, oh, that's so good, then all of a sudden it's like I have this desire to call, and so then I do. But otherwise, I just allow myself to sit with the pressure of feeling like, oh no, like you do, like Dr. Tim needs someone to call.
Yeah. Well,
I just want to encourage you both and anybody else listening to resist the urge to call just because you don't want to call, but you think you should. And do call whenever you have the urge.
Mm-hmm. I'm taking a deep breath on that one, Dr. Tim, because that's like permission in a way, and I hope it sticks. And you've given it before. It's really my bag of garbage, and it's a big bag of garbage. Yeah.
Well, you've done it. You've done it again. You've helped us get through the hour, so thank you to both of you. And I'm running from here to another appointment, so I will mute you both and thank you for your input and your energy. And I'll remind us all that we come from love. We're made of this stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. And I'll hope Jeannie Rice can join us. I'm going to turn on her microphone since she's been on the switchboard for a while. Are you there, Jeannie? Probably not quite ready. Hello, Jeannie Rice. And if she is, she's muted. So just to avoid the potential embarrassment of hearing something that Jeannie doesn't want us to hear, I'll mute her again. I'll remind us all that there is a support group tonight. It runs from 6:30 to 9 p.m. Central, and the information about how to join us for that meeting is available at MindShiftersAcademy.org. And it's a come one, come all kind of situation. You can join for free. You can donate if you so desire. And we'd be happy to have you. Again, our call-in number for the show, 563-999-3581. And if you press 1, you can join Michael and Jeannie.